Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for this honor. This is terrific. Thanks to naisA and to Jamie. This is a real honor to be recognized. It is an enormous honor and a privilege for me to have spent a big portion of my career at the Justice Department and further the mission of justice. In my current role as United States Attorney for Maryland, I'm the Chief Law Enforcement Officer. So I work with FBI, DEA, ATF, Secret Service, and a lot of very, very brave law enforcement agents and police officers to make sure that the public is safe. So my current goals are to reduce violent crime. You might have heard that Baltimore is having some violent crime challenges recently, so I spent a lot of my time trying to figure out how we can, frankly, have fewer people die as a result of gunshot wounds in Baltimore City, but also throughout the entire state. Maryland is also facing a very more than its share of opioid overdose deaths in the country. And so I'm working very hard with my prosecutors and law enforcement agents and officers to make it so that fewer Marylanders are dying every year as a result of opioid overdose. We also work every day to ensure national security. I get regular briefings from the FBI as to the national security threats facing Maryland, and it honestly sometimes makes my hair curl a little bit. But we work every day to make sure that we keep our people safe from terrorism. We expose and prosecute public corruption. Maryland, unfortunately, is a state that has a history of state, local, public officials that unfortunately are corrupted, and they don't fulfill their duties of fulfilling honest services to their constituents. So we go after those public officials. We prosecute and deter financial fraud, which undermines confidence in the markets, which is critical to our financial system. And we also are taking the fight against cyber threats, which are growing more and more important. So that's just a small sampling of the types of things that I'm honored to handle every day on behalf of the people of Maryland. I'll tell you a little bit about my own personal story, and I'm sure it has echoes in a lot of the stories that all of you have in the rich tapestry of Asian Americans. So I was born here in the United States, New York City, but my mom did not like cold weather, so we quickly went to California. So I consider myself a native South Californian. But my parents, they immigrated here to the United States from Korea. And they grew up during the Korean War, and I can very safely say that my life would be very, very different were it not for the United States of America, and specifically the United States Army in Korea during the Korean War conflict. So my dad, he was a kid and he grew up in South Korea, not far from Seoul. But my mom, she and her family, they actually were from what's now known as North Korea. And during the conflict, my mom's mom, my maternal grandmother, she actually threw my mom on her back, and they left everything, all their property, which was pretty significant in North Korea, and they hightailed it on foot southward to escape the conflict in the north of Korea. So these are, thankfully, stories that my parents tell me, but I have no real way of relating because I was fortunate to grow up here in the States because my parents chose to emigrate here. So that's another way in which the United States has affected my life, and that I was able to be born here because my parents were able to emigrate to the States and give their children a better life. So I feel very, very fortunate to have grown up here and to be an American citizen, and it really inspires me to be part of the Justice Department, which I consider to be, frankly, one of the real crown jewels of the United States government system, and the Justice Department in particular, a sterling reputation that I think is so important to public trust in our government. So earlier in my career, I was a prosecutor in the office that I am now honored to lead. So right now I'm United States Attorney. Before I was an Assistant United States Attorney. So I prosecuted and I helped investigate cases. And one of the very best things about being a federal prosecutor, being an Assistant United States Attorney, is at the beginning of every court proceeding, you get to stand up and you introduce yourself to the court and to the jury. And every single time I got to do that as a prosecutor, I stood up and I said, "Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Robert Herr, and I represent the United States of America." And every single time I said that, it sent a little chill down my spine, and I'm feeling that chill down my spine right now. And it actually never, ever got old. And I share that with all of my prosecutors whom I have the pleasure of swearing in now when I hire them. And I say, I hope you feel that same chill, and I hope it never gets old for you. And I'm confident then when my parents were growing up in Korea during the Korean War, they would never have dreamed that they would have had a son who was going to be representing the United States in federal court. So that is the dream that is possible now, thanks to the United States, for me and for my children now, and for so many Asian Americans whose stories are similar to my own. So my own father, like a lot of Asian immigrants to the United States in that era, he was a physician, and my mother was a nurse. So I didn't know any lawyers growing up. There were no lawyers in my family. My dad hung out with doctors because those are the people they knew. So I had no real conception of what it was like to be a lawyer. So thankfully, of course, in college, I tried my hand at pre-med, quickly determined that I was terrible at those classes. So quickly figured out that I needed to find something else to do. And thankfully in college, I was exposed to a broad array of interests, including things that led me to law. And I've heard remarks, Ambassador Block talked about the importance of mentorship. In my career, I've been very fortunate to have fabulous mentors and really inspirational role models, I believe, not only for me, but for the entire country. I had the pleasure of working for Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein in the job before this one, and also had the opportunity to work closely with FBI Director Chris Wray, both in government and private practice. So I've learned firsthand from each of them, and so many other people at the Justice Department, what it means to execute the department's mission in the way that the American people deserve. So, but that means that's just another illustration of the importance of mentorship, and I hope that as an Asian United States attorney, which is, I guess, still rather unusual, but it's not unprecedented, and right now, actually, in the Trump administration, there are 3 Asian United States attorneys. Jesse Liu is the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, and B.J. Pak is U.S. Attorney down in Atlanta. So there are 3 of us. So I would submit that there's room for more, and hopefully the roles and the positions that we've ascended to can be inspirations, and we can be mentors and role models for the law students that follow behind us. So thank you very much for this honor. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you.